morning, and welcome to CabWriter Comprehensive Part 9. I'm going to try to finish this tutorial this morning. It may take us a little longer than 30 minutes, but hopefully I can wrap it up. Well, when we left off, we created this wall, and I happened to notice, by the way, that I wanted this to be an outside wall, and it's an inside wall. That's not a big problem because walls drawn by CabWriter are just like any other component. You can edit them, and I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to edit this part, bring it out to 6.5 inches, which is 2 more inches than what it is right now. Now, there's just a couple of things I want to show you about the wall tool, and then we're going to move on very quickly. I want to do another wall back here, and let me just check and see how big it is. (218 inches). And so I'll use the wall tool, and I can click. First of all, I probably want to use the Alt key to make this an outside wall too, and I can click here, and it doesn't look like anything's happening. But if you bring your cursor out far enough, you'll see that even though I clicked up here, it's drawing along the floor. So I want that to be 218 inches. And there we go. And now I want a wall here. And let's just see how big that is. I'm going to start from here and measure to the outside of the wall. 201 3/4. 201 3/4. So again, I'll create a line here. 201 3/4. And let's see how far out we want it to come. We'll measure from this point right here to this point. 83 3/4. And so we'll make this, come on pointer, 83 3/4. And I'll put that wall right there. This is an inside wall. Now I want to come out here to 83 3/4. I've got an inside wall. But notice the wall is on the wrong side of the dotted line, the construction line. I can change that by simply hitting the Control key and moving my cursor a little bit. Each time you hit the Control key, it flops the wall to the other side. And that's where I want the wall, right there. And it indeed put it in the right place. That's where my trim ends. That's where I want it. Okay, so now I have 3 walls. And I'm not going to do anything further with the walls except to say that typically when you create scenes and things like this, you want to be able to remove one wall and not the other or whatever have you. So what I'm going to do, what I did in the other drawing, is I renamed the walls. I called this one the west wall, called this one the north wall, called this one the east wall, and I put them on separate layers, an east wall, a north wall, and a west wall. And that way for different scenes, like I did up here, northwest perspective, northeast perspective, southeast perspective, southwest perspective, and also the various elevations. I can choose different walls. Now I'm not going to do that online here. You certainly know how to do that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to clear all layers here. And I'm going to bring the wall layers up. I'm going to select all of this, copy it, edit, copy. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to delete these walls that I've put in this drawing. And I'll delete that layer, and I'm going to use my purge here. I got rid of 3 walls. And I'm going to do an edit, paste in place. And that's going to put those walls in the same place that they were in the other drawing, in this drawing. And so now I've got my walls completed. I've got my west wall, my north wall, my east wall, and everything should look okay. Just for the heck of it, let's see if everything happened correctly. That looks right. That looks right. That looks right. So it looks like I've got everything I need. And I didn't have to redraw it. All right, we are now ready to start creating scenes for our drawing. Our client has signed off on this design, or our spouses or whoever has signed off on the design, so we're ready to start creating some scenes. First thing I'm going to do is at this point, I no longer need all of the construction points. So I can do an edit, delete guides. Those are gone. If I want a floor in here, I suppose I could add a floor, but I'm not sure I need it. Let's see. We'll keep going. All right, first thing I want is I want some perspective views. So I'm going to create a view. Let's bring in the... Oh, I've already got scenes up. Oh, there we are. Let's create a scene. Call this scene Northwest Perspective. And let's bring in all the layers. And this is the north wall. This is the west wall. So I want to look at it like this, but in a perspective view. Probably don't want my axes. And I want it to look like that. Okay, so now I've got my scene. What I have to do at this point is I have to update this scene. And it says, what do you want me to do about the style? This is not a SketchUp course, but you should know that styles, layers, scenes all combine to compose a scene. what I want is I'm going to create a new style, because this is different than the one that I normally have called the woodworking style. And you'll see that in a moment. So I'm going to update the scene and create a new style. So let me bring up the styles. So we can see what we've got here. And I want to look at the in-model styles. I've got two of them. One of them called Woodworkers, and one of them called Woodworking, and one called Woodworking 1. That's the one I just created. I'm going to rename that. I'm going to rename it to Perspective. And anytime you make a change to a style, you have to update it to save it. So I'll update it right there. Okay, now I'm going to create some more scenes. I'm going to close the materials here for a moment so it's not in my way. And I'm going to create, that was northwest. I'm going to do northeast. So I'll look at it. That's my northeast scene. Although I probably want to rotate it a little bit. Get more in the picture. I'll update it. First of all, I got to create the new scene. I haven't done that. So add a scene. Call it Northeast. Perspective. Update it. There we go. Now I got to update it again. All right, so that's my northeast scene. And let me look in this one. And so we have a northwest and northeast. Looks a little different than the one I just did, but that's okay. Now I've got a southeast. And basically that's looking kind of at the island and everything over here. I'll do that one. So let's see. Well, it's not gonna. Let me do it this way. Now for this, I probably want this wall out of here, and maybe even this wall, so I can get a better picture of that scene. So I'll create a new scene, call it Southeast. Let me bring all the layers back in again. This time I'm going to take away the north wall and the west wall. And I don't know that that really helps a whole lot. Let me bring them back in. And I'll do that. whatever it is that you want, but I don't have the appliances in here either, so they probably would help things a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to update that and call it the scene I want. And lastly, I want a northwest, northeast, southeast, southwest scene. So I'll add the southwest scene. Add all the layers back in. That's south and west. I think I want to see the island a little bit. So let's call that it. Okay, so those are my 4 perspective scenes. Now what I want is my Cutlist scene. And then my DXF scene. So let's put those in. Now my Cutlist scene wants everything in there that I want on my cut list. Well, I certainly don't want the walls on my cut list, so I'm going to remove the walls from the scene. And I typically use a front ISO view, not in perspective. So I'm going to change, what I'm going to do is change parallel projection and the woodworking. Okay, so now the point of this scene is this has all of the hardwoods, it has all of the plywoods, it has all the parts in the cabinets. Now if I had trim in here, I might want to include that. In fact, I did in my original drawing. I'll show you that in a moment. I may want to include that because I may want that on my cut list. But this is basically the cut list scene. It's got everything in it that I want on the cut list, and I'll update it. Now notice if I go back to one of these scenes, I'm using the perspective view. Notice that the camera is set to perspective, but if I go to cut list, I'm using the woodworking view or style, and my camera is set to parallel projection. The only ones I want perspective are these photorealistic ones that I'm going to show a client or just want for documentation purposes or something like that. But everything else wants to be in camera parallel projection, because that's the one where I can start dimensioning and dimensions will be shown appropriately. All right, so now the scene I want is the DXF scene. The DXF scene wants to be all the plywood but no hardwoods, because I'm going to cut it on a DXF machine. So I'll create a new scene. Call it DXF. And again, I want everything in there. I don't want the walls. And, well, actually, it's easier to start out with nothing. And what I'm going to add is the base boxes. The ladder base. The upper boxes. And that's it. This is all the sheet goods. So I'm going to update this scene. And that's just sheet goods, no hardwoods. That's the importance of these layers and the way try not to change the way CabWriter lays them out for the most part, because they're laid out for a purpose, and that is to give us the right scenes that we need for various types of things. Now, if I wanted to, I could produce the Cutlist and the DXF right now, but I'm not going to. I'm going to create the rest of my scenes first. Now, one of the things I want to do at this point is, if this is the point in the project where the cabinets are not going to change, the customer or the client has signed off and they're not going to change, and I'm really certain about that, one of the things I want to do is renumber all the cabinets so they're sequentially numbered. So I'll do that. I'll save the file. Okay, now let me start doing some of the things I want to do to create some more scenes. Let me go back to the original for the moment. So far we have all of the perspective scenes, the Cutlist and the DXF. Next thing we want to do is the elevation scenes, and I want a north wall elevation, a west wall elevation, south wall, and east wall elevation. All of the elevations for the walls. And then I'm going to want some plan views, and then some combined views, and finally the ladder. So let's go do the elevation views for each wall. I want a north wall elevation, so I'll add a new scene. And I'll call it north elevation. And I pretty much want everything in there. And I'm going to want this using the woodworking scene. Everything now is going to be the woodworking scene. I don't want these two walls in it. Yeah, let's leave those in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the let me find it. The sectioning tools. And why am I? Oh, there it is. I'm going to use the sectioning tools. And I'm going to use this vertical plane. I'm going to select the sectioning tools. With the move tool, I'm going to move it out till I get the section I want. All right, I'm starting to get the island in there, and I don't want the island. So I'll go back a little further. Probably about there's where I want it. And I do want the walls and stuff in this. All right, so I just simply place that sectioning scene wherever I want it. And now I go to the CabWriter tool. It's under the Draw menu, CabWriter, Create Section from Section Plane. It's going to do a couple of things. I'm going to call it says, what section view do you want to create? I'm going to call this North Elevation. Okay, now notice a couple of things. CabWriter created that view. It also created this layer called Z North Elevation and put it in this scene. It created the scene. Notice the name of the scene, North Elevation, is the same as the Z layer, North Elevation. Now I can dimension that scene if I want and put all my dimensions on the Z layer, and I'm ready to go. All right, so now we want one for the west wall. Or we could go news, northeast. Let's do east. I'm going to add a scene. Call it East Elevation. I'm going to go back to the Cutlist and come around this way. This is the east wall over here, and I do want I'll bring my walls, I'll bring everything in, and I want why am I having trouble here? Oh, there we go. All right, I want that plane. And now I'll compose it. Select it. Whoops, that one. With the move tool, I'll move this until I'm satisfied with that. And I don't want to get the island in it, but I do want that cabinet in it. So that's probably a good place right there. All right, so now I'll go to the Draw menu, CabWriter, Create Section from Section Plane. And I'll call this East Elevation. And there we go. I've got the East Elevation. Notice this cabinet that was cut in half, it's been sectioned. All right, let's do the South Elevation, or the West Elevation, I guess. And again, I'll go back to my cut list, add in everything, and I want the west wall this time. So I'll select this. Whoops, not that one. That one. And I'll move it to give me the drawing I want. I don't want the island in it. That's probably good enough right there. And the Draw menu, CabWriter, Create Scene from Section Plane. This is the West Elevation. Okay. This would be the wall with the refrigerator on it. And now I'm going to do the final one, south elevation. I'll go back to my cut list. I'll bring everything in. This time, I'm going to want to come out this way. Use my section plane right there. Select it. Move it back. Okay. Let me see what I can do here. I don't want those in there, but I might want something like that. In other words, notice that I've got this cabinet in there. It's in a bad place though, because... Oh, no, that's all right. Yeah, these cabinets are going to be sectioned. I suppose I could move this up and get rid of those cabinets. Let's do that, like that. Okay, so now when I'm happy with whatever it is I'm doing there, when I get a scene that I like, I just say create section from section plane. I'll call it south elevation. And I've got my south elevation. All right, now let's go back, just take a peek here again. I've got all my elevations in there. Now I want a base plan, an upper plan, and a combined plan. So again, I'll go to Cut List, bring in all the layers. Looks like I still have a part in there I don't want. Hadn't seen that before. Let's unlock it. Delete it. There we go. Okay, so now let's do... Notice these lines here, by the way. Those are simply my elevation planes. Not to worry about them right at the moment. They shouldn't be in my cut list, however. There they go. They're not in my cut list. Oh, I turned down all the layers. That's why they're in there. I don't want the Z layers showing right now. Okay. So now I want my plane, or my plan view. I'll just go to the floor, like that. Select it. Move it up until I'm satisfied with what I'm getting. Maybe right about there. And I want the walls in there for sure. Oh, they are in there. They are in there. Okay, so now I can go to my CabWriter, create section from section plane. I'll call this one base plan. And there we go. Now we got the base plan. Let's do the upper. Very much the same. Take the move tool, move it up till I get what I want, maybe something like that. Go to draw. And I'll call this upper plan. And I have my upper plan. Now, I may want to change this. I may want just the upper plan here, and I don't want any of the base stuff in there, so I'll take the base stuff out. Actually, should have done this before I did the plan. So there we go. That's my upper plan. I need to update that. Lastly, I may want a combination. So I'll create another scene. I'm not actually going to do a section this time. I'm just going to create a scene. And call it, I don't know, let's call it combined plan. And I'll want to put back in what I just took out. Actually, I don't. Yes, I do. I want the upper plan. I want the base plan. And I want all the base cabinets in there, I suppose. And the walls. So that's my combined view. And I'll update that. Now, by the way, these views are very much whatever it is you think you want in your drawings. For instance, when CabWriter creates these, it creates a section. There, I might actually want to update that again. It creates a section, but it also leaves everything that's below the section in there. So for instance, if I orbit this, notice it's got everything below the section in there. If I go to my base plan and orbit my base plan, it's got everything below that section in there. I may not want that. I may want, what I might want is only the section. So for instance, I can clear all layers and just go to my Z base plan. And that may be a little cleaner and more what I want than that. That's up to you. You can update the scene and do what you want there. The other thing you want to notice is that what CabWriter does for you, in addition to creating the scenes and the layers properly named, is notice that normally when you do a section in CabWriter or in SketchUp, you can see inside things. Well, what CabWriter does is it puts faces here so that you don't get to look inside and see all the holes, things like that. So okay, so now we got all that done. The last thing we want is a ladder-based scene. And you have options for how you do that. Let me go back to the current drawing. And I'm going to clear all layers. First of all, I'm going to go to Cutlist. Clear all layers. And I'm going to bring in just the ladder base. And now I want a floor plan. And I will select it. And move it until I get what I want. All right, now let's zoom in here as much as we can. What I may want is to come and cut that stretcher in half on the bottom so I can see those in my plan. Let's take a look at what that looks like. I'm going to call this, I'll call it ladder base. And there you go. So now you get to see all of the stretchers and ties and trim and what have you. And so now we're all set to do things like create a cut list, create a layout plan for cutting, and create dimensions. We can dimension right here in CabWriter if we want. And I recommend if you do that, if you're not a professional, you're not going to buy SketchUp Pro and use layout to do your dimensioning, you can dimension right here in SketchUp. And I suggest that whatever scene you're dimensioning, you put those layers, you put those dimensions on the Z layer that goes with that scene. Z stands for dimensions. So you always want your dimensions on the Z layer, but you want them on the Z layer that goes with the scene you're dimensioning. So if I'm dimensioning the ladder base, I'd put the dimensions all in here, collect them all, and then put them on the Z ladder base layer. All right, so I've got all that done. Now what I want to do is go back and actually create a cut list. One more time I'm going to do this. Doesn't hurt to do it over and over, but I did change this down here. I noticed something down here and I deleted a part. So I'm going to do that again. Now I'm going to simply say select all. And while I'm at it, I'm going to lock everything. I'll start by unlocking everything and then I'll lock everything. And I'll go to File, Cutlist Bridge. I use Cutlist plus FX. If you don't have that, you can use Microsoft Excel or OpenOffice. But I use this, so I'm going to say Export to Cutlist plus FX. And it told me that it put my model CW or comprehensive course models.cwx in the same folder that this model is in. So I'll say OK. While I'm at it, I'm going to go to my DXF. I'm going to say select all. And I'm going to say File, Cutlist Bridge, Export to DXF. And again, this time it put a folder in the same folder as my model. So I just say OK. Now it's really simple. Let me bring the folder up. Here's the folder. And notice I've got a CabWriter comprehensive. Well, that's not the one I want. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. It's right here, staring me in the eye. So if I just double click on this now, let me move this up so you can see it. Okay, so now I've got my cut list. And again, I think I showed you this in part 1, but I can go across the top here and sort things any way I want. If I wanted to sort them by subassembly, I can do that. Sort them by part number, I can do that, or anything else. I can look at my layouts. And there you go. Got my layouts. If I want to look at maple plywood 3/4 pre-finished, notice over here it shows me all the various sheets I need and how each one needs to be cut. And you can see how efficient the layouts are. All right, so that's the cut list. The other thing I can do is bring up a program called Cut2D Pro Trial Edition. You can purchase this, but for this purpose here, I just want to demonstrate it. Notice in my file, I got a folder here called SketchUp Comprehensive Course Model. That was the folder I told you that was put in there by the DXF, Export DXF. It's got a bunch of DXF files in here. I'm going to use this one right here. So I'll say Open, New. I'll accept that. It tells you this is how big my plywood is. And I will say Import, Vectors. Let's see if I'm getting the right one. There we go. 3/4 inch pre-finished. Open it up. And initially, it just lays out all the pieces like this. But what I want them actually laid out on sheets. And it'll take a bit to do this. There you go. All right, now it needs, you can see up here it needs 19 sheets of plywood. It's placed them all on the sheets. You can look at any one sheet in more detail. So I can look at that sheet or that sheet. And you can see how they're placed. And if you zoom in, you can see all the holes and everything else in the drawing and the part numbers and so on and so forth. Now you're ready to go to the CNC machine. That simple. You're ready to actually start cutting now. So it's that simple, getting the cut lists and the layouts and cutting diagrams. So there we are. We've completed SketchUp Comprehensive. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've learned something. So until the next course, have a good day.